All right, I want to welcome all of you. Our Santa Barbara Wine Club, during these unprecedented times, we're coming up with some creative ways to deliver everything to you guys. And so we're here going to film a wine tasting for everyone with their selections. And I just want to thank everyone so much for being a wine club member out there and the support. Truly during this time in small business, we need it the most. And hopefully we're making a great product that you guys can enjoy from the comfort of your homes, and we'll get back to doing what we do. So we got our executive winemaker here, Rob Cox, and I am Kirk Wiles, for people who don't know me, the founder of the winery here. And we have our wine club selections that we're gonna run through with you guys, and we're gonna taste alongside. So let's pour the first wine. So we have our 17 Santa Rita Hills Chardonnay. This wine actually was recently rated by Wine Enthusiasts at 90 points. And Rob, you want to tell everyone a little bit about the methodology on how we do Chardonnay?
So for Chardonnay, we're kind of mimicking some of the principles that we use on our East Coast Chardonnay. It is barrel fermented, barrel aged, all French oak on the lees. That lee stirring allows us to add some creaminess back to the mid palate. Keeping it on the lees too allows us to use less sulfites because they're antioxidants. So we're mirroring those principles from coast to coast, which allows us to stylistically make Chardonnay the same way, but you really can appreciate the difference in the terroir from our East Coast Chardonnay to our West Coast Chardonnay. And what we really don't have here on the East Coast that you all have in this Chardonnay from Santa Rita Hills is the proximity to the ocean, which allows for really good acid retention on this wine. You can tell, if you can see here, I can't tell from the background, but you get a nice golden color from Chardonnay, especially Chardonnay that's been barrel fermented. Give this a little spin and sniff. Right away you get kind of like a citrus note. You get like a lemon curd. From the 17th vintage, this is the last of the drought years in California. With yields were a little bit down than normal. The grapes are coming in sooner. We're able to really watch the acid on these when these are harvested. So let me give this a little sip myself.
Yeah, this Chardonnay is actually a blend of two different vineyards that we work with. John Sebastiano Vineyard, which we call JSV, which is on the northern side of Santa Rita Hills. You get a little more of a sandy soil. And then the Sanford and Benedict Vineyard, which is on the southern side of Santa Rita Hills, you get a little more of that volcanic soil. And we'll get into the next Chardonnay, which is all Sanford and Benedict, but this is a blend of those two together. So
yeah,
really nice nose, really nice palate.
They work well together. This wine's going to age well. The acidity is really going to allow this wine to be bright, years down the road. Great food wine, and that's kind of what we're envisioning this style of Chardonnay. Whether we're letting it go through full mallow or partial mallow, I think we're really watching the acid in this wine. So it has some brightness, some freshness, and will allow it to really pair well with food. And this one, you get some of that citrus that came through in the aromatics, but you really get some tropical notes that are coming through on the palate. And the first thing that really jumps out to me is like an Asian pear note, which is kind of fun about this wine. So,
and for Chardonnay, for me, I think barrel selection is so important because you want to get some oak on there, but you don't want to overdo it. And so by getting the right cooperages, the right oak selection, it's a finesse to it. It's almost like spicing a piece of meat, right? You don't want to overly spice something that's so good and ruin those really great flavors to it. But well done, it can really complement and enhance the wine. So I think Rob does a great job in our barrel selection.
Totally agree. I think Chardonnay needs some oak. Just needs to be well integrated, well balanced with the wine. You don't want it to just completely crush the fruit in the wine, to overwhelm, all the other subtle aspects that are going on with Chardonnay. And I think the oak integration of this wine is pretty seamless, and it just kind of picks everything else up in the wine and doesn't dominate it. So.
For those who haven't been able to visit the Santa Rita Hills, I really encourage everyone to get up there. It's such a dramatic landscape. You have, the only east to west mountain quarter on the entire west coast. And so you have this unique microclimate where a maritime layer kind of comes down the Pacific, and it's the only release point into land. And so, you get this really kind of cool weather, cool night, dense fog in the morning, and it kind of blows off to heat and sun in the afternoon. And really dramatic with these big, mountains on each side, and just really an unbelievably beautiful place. It's so weird to have a cool weather climate in Southern California where you can grow Chardonnay and Pinot Noir so well and really attain that, acidity. So it's a really special place, and it's really why we as a brand have chosen to go out to Santa Barbara, is to make unbelievable Chardonnay and Pinot Noir from Santa Rita Hills. So great wine. So cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so go ahead and hit pause on that video. Enjoy this wine if you're enjoying it. We'll be right back with the next selection. Welcome back. We have our next wine, our 2017 Sanford and Benedict Chardonnay. Sanford and Benedict, for those who don't know, is a very special vineyard within Santa Rita Hills. Now, Robbie, you want to go ahead and pour that?
Yep.
It's a very special vineyard within Santa Rita Hills. It is actually the very first vineyard planted in Santa Barbara County. And the vision that Richard Stanford, who established this vineyard, he did a lot of studying of microclimate and soils, and really found this site specific for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and established the vineyard in 1972, which really had set the way for Santa Barbara as an entire wine region as a whole. And so we're really lucky to work with this vineyard. It's on the southern side of Santa Rita Hills, as I mentioned before, with beautiful volcanic soils. And one of the things that makes this vineyard so special is there is actually a water table that runs underneath the vineyard. And so even in drought conditions like we have in Southern California, this vineyard gets a good water supply, but those vines really have to reach down deep into that volcanic soil, establish themselves to get to that water. And so it's one of the most desirable vineyards to be in all of Santa Barbara. And we're really lucky to have such a great relationship with those guys over there, and just an amazingly beautiful place. And so, when doing Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, we have our standard Santa Rita Hills, versions, but we really felt like this vineyard was the vineyard that we wanted to highlight in our production. So we elevated and segregated these wines from the production to do a separate vineyard-specific wine for it. It really meant a lot to be able to put that on the label. So we're very happy to have this wine, and Wine Enthusiast enjoyed it too. It got a 92 points on the latest ratings. So Rob, you want to tell us a little bit about this one as well?
So it's kind of fun doing these side by side. It's been a while since I've had both of these side by side. Same vintage, same grape, but this really, you can get what the word terroir is about. This is from a few different vineyards. You still get that Santa Barbara County feel to this Chardonnay, but coming specifically from this vineyard, this site, you can really appreciate what an older vine and what this site does with Chardonnay. I just think, it just adds an extra layer of complexity. These older vines do. Usually with an older vine, there's a little bit less yield. Kirk alluded to, these vines are really going deep down into the subsurface to get after that water supply. And the further they're going down, and water carries minerals. So I think this definitely has a little more level of minerality to it, which adds just another level of complexity. And like I was saying, these are both French oak, both barrel fermented, both on the lees. So a lot of the same winemaking practices being done in these two, but you really can appreciate the sites that this Chardonnay is coming off when you taste these two side by side. Both great wines, both scored well, but just an extra layer of complexity to this Sanford Benedict.
And I really get kind of a round, full body Chardonnay to this. I mean, it really, for me, it just kind of covers my mouth, and there's this bigger full body element to it, that its presence is there. Just a special Chardonnay. And part of what we as a brand are really trying to achieve with being out there is this sense of place, right? We want to make wines that are of the highest quality, but really represent a region and a place. And I think this vineyard for us, the reason why we went out there was to be in Santa Rita Hills, and to be in this vineyard making these two wines is just really a special thing. And we wanted to share that by putting it on the label. I think it really deserves that extra level of elevation and marketing aspect and transparency.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we really tried not to intervene as little as possible on these Sanford Benedict wines, so we can really show their sense of place. And as Kirk said, that's something that's important to us. These wines have like a soul to them that that just exude that site at Sanford Benedict and what it's all about. So,
Passion and purpose, right?
yes, for sure.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, enjoy this wine, and we'll be back with you in a few minutes. So go ahead and pause again on that video. We'll be back with the next wine. All right, welcome back again. We are now going to take things and elevate them even more. Our next wine in the selections is Pinot Noir from Sanford and Benedict, but we are diving deep into the specific blocks there. And we are so thrilled to be able to work with this fruit. This is the Founder's Block Pinot. And these are grapes from the vines that were originally planted in 1972 from that very first vineyard planting that was synonymous with the Santa Barbara region as a whole and its creation. And the fact that we get to work with this fruit is not only history in your glass when you're drinking it, but really represents the essence of Pinot Noir and the terroir and the creation of this entire wine region. It's just really, really special stuff. And we are actually the only winery that gets this fruit outside of Sanford, who grows it themselves. And just, again, having that great relationship with this vineyard and having this block be set aside for us is a really, really special thing. I mean, this is the essence of why we went out there, and I'm just thrilled that we as a young brand get to work with this fruit.
Yeah.
So, cheers.
Yeah, I remember when the crew at Sanford and Benedict offered this to us, and Kirk told me about it, and I was like, call them right now. Well, I mean, this is a no-brainer. Really privileged to get to work with this fruit and just tasting this along the way and seeing what this is all about. Is really what we're about. So, and this wine, it has that classic Pinot Noir color. Just this wine just has a level of richness to it. It's earthiness, like just depth of flavor to it that younger vines, really achieve to get to that point that this wine really showcases that I really love about this wine. So.
And the interesting thing about this too, everyone in Santa Rita Hills talks about Pinot and the different clones, and blending and making the best blend of clones or which clone is best. This vineyard being so old and this block being so old, they don't even know what clone that was originally planted. And so it's kind of a mystery. They have some ideas maybe, but there's no actual knowing what clone of Pinot this is, which kind of gives it a mysterious factor to it, right? The origins of Pinot in Santa Barbara, we don't know exactly where they came from. It was a feeling almost. It wasn't this scientific, experiment that was calculated. It was just, there was something that just felt like this was right. And when you smell and you drink and you taste this wine, there's something to me that's just right about it. The acidity to it, the length of it, being able to pair this with a multitude of foods, and the life that this wine is going to have. Over the next decade, this wine is going to evolve and get better and better and better. And this is a Pinot to lay down in your cellar if there ever is one, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's big, it's bold, it's like, I love this word unctuous, that it just has a lot going on with it. A lot of those or young notes in this wine are coming through now that are kind of slide to the background in this wine, and you're going to kind of get some secondary notes. I even get a little bit of like an olive on this that's really unique, like a savory note. And I've been in some of the best Burgundy growing in Burgundy and the Willamette and some of the best Pinot Noir regions in the world. And when you are on that site at Sanford and Benedict, you can definitely get a feel and see and the sense of place of why Pinot and Chard do so well, including its proximity to the ocean and its cool nights that Kirk alluded to either. It just feels right for Pinot there when you're on that site. Having visited those other sites, and this wine just hits what you're looking for in some of the best world-class Pinots that are out there. So.
Absolutely. And again, this is why we went out to Santa Barbara, was the Pinot Noir specifically. I love a good underdog story, right? We're making wine in Virginia, and we started here, and I still think Santa Barbara's an underdog. I think we are making brilliant wines that can compete with Burgundy and anywhere else in the world. but the world is still discovering it, and we are at the heart of that. We have the history of it in our glass and part of us, and we're excited to be a part of that. And that's why we're there. This is the essence of what we're doing in Santa Barbara. And I couldn't be more proud of this wine and what it stands for in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen, fun thing, if you've ever seen the movie Sideways, there's a reason why they love the Pinot Noir in that movie so much. He goes and tastes. It's really the star of Santa Barbara for sure.
For sure.
So, cheers. Enjoy this wine, sit back, relax, and we'll be back with our last selection. All right, welcome back for our last wine. Before we move on, I just want to mention real quick that Pinot Noir, the Founders Block, also got a 92 points from Wine Enthusiasts, so they enjoyed it over there as well. And that's 2 92s in a row. And moving on to our last wine, also was 92, but also got an Editor's Choice from Wine Enthusiasts. And our last wine is called K3. And we're going to move to the other side of Santa Barbara County for this wine. Which is a blend of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. A lot of people ask K3, what does that name mean? Well, I am actually K3. My real name is Luther Kirkpatrick Wiles III, and my father was Kirk II. And growing up, they used to call me Kirk III. So to distinguish, when my mother would yell out, our names, which one she needed. So, I've never named a wine after myself, and we were there and we were working with our consultant, Doug Marjoram, in the region. A lot of you guys might know him. And he has his wine, M5. And so someone joked that we should call it M3 since we were or K3 since we were using 3 grapes.
That would be me. So.
Yeah, you did come up with that. And, I never named a wine after myself, and it kind of hit a chord for me that my parents used to call me that growing up. And so it just felt right. And that was the name. So
your mom still calls you K3.
Still calls me K3. So this wine is an amazing wine. It is very different than what we're doing in Santa Rita Hills. But again, sense of place. You move just 8 miles inland, from Santa Rita Hills, and you have Happy Canyon there. But you also have just north of Happy Canyon in Santa Barbara County a lot of other vineyards that do these style wines very well. Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. And a lot of stuff from the Rhone Valley. So Rob can talk a little bit more about this wine and our methodology behind it and the blend.
So K3 is a GSM, as what we call it in the industry. That means it's Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, which are 3 of the main Rhone varieties in the Rhone Valley. Newsflash, this is my favorite wine we make. I love this wine. This is the first bottle I go to when we're drinking Santa Barbara wine, if I get to pick. I traveled extensively in the Rhone Valley about 10 years ago, starting way up in the north in Condrieu, where Viognier is home, and traveled down through, the entire Rhone Valley and finished in, Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And, I was already in love with Syrah, but I also fell in love with Grenache and Mourvedre. And, this wine really speaks to me and what I like to drink. And a lot of people will, they ask me like, Robbie, you're a winemaker, like, what's your favorite wine? And I can't really like pinpoint it to one particular wine or whatever, but I always say if I can pick one region that I could only drink the rest of my life, I'll take the Rhone variety and its varietals over anywhere else. So this wine really speaks to me. I love Grenache, and this is, 60% Grenache, 20% of the other 2 varieties. And it just, Grenache in Santa Barbara County on the western or on the eastern side is just, it just does so well. And I think that the Rhone varieties in Santa Barbara County, because, Pinot and Chard are getting so much press for its, level of quality and the world-class wines that they're making, which is just due, don't get me wrong, that in the Rhone varieties do just as well. And, and the whole Central Coast, the guys up in Paso do an amazing job with the Rhone varieties up there too. And, this wine just really speaks to me. It just really jumps to the glass. A lot of like red fruit, really bright red fruit. Grenache really holds into acidity really, really well. And Syrah brings like a big structure, and Mourvedre brings a lot of aromatics and some good acid in itself. So, just working with these 3 varieties and kind of coming up with this blend, and it's always been Grenache heavy because it's what I like, that it really worked well for this wine. And this wine has always scored well for us.
Absolutely.
So,
when I go out to eat at a restaurant, one of my favorite wines to order to bang for your buck is a Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And this wine in our lineup is, when you talk about bang for buck, this is it. You know, and you know, for the value of what you're getting in that glass, this wine is, to me, very underpriced for what it is. But we want it to be approachable. We want people to enjoy it. You know, we actually put a screw top on this wine, which is different than all the other wines we do out there, just to make it easy. You know, we want to make it fun, make it easy, and you know, what started as just, you know, kind of fun and a goofy, you know, let's name it after you, has become one of our crowd favorites out there, and people have really been clamoring for this wine. And, you know, we sold out of the 17 so quickly, and this is the release to the 18 to you guys first. So this is actually not even available in the tasting room to anyone who walks in, and here in Virginia as well, we get people who have asked about it to try the 17, and so they're anxiously waiting to get this wine. So if you're enjoying this wine, you're in for a treat tonight. You know, these varieties, you know, when you go inland, you know, it gets much warmer, and you got to really watch the sugar content balanced with the pH in these wines, because you can get a high alcohol wine that's imbalanced. And what's weird is these grapes balance at a higher alcohol. So I think you're 15% or so on this wine, alcohol wise. Yeah, 15
Still has good acidity,
but still really good acidity, which is you know, a great region to grow these wines.
You know, this wine doesn't feel the heat. You know, when a wine is high in alcohol, usually you get like the heat on the back of your throat from it. And I just, you know, the good acidity just kind of makes your mouth salivate, and you just don't feel that amount of alcohol, that amount of ethanol in this wine, that heat. I usually like the most expensive thing, so the fact that this is my favorite wine, it's our cheapest bottle, says something that's profound in itself right there. So, but
and I really get that dark stone fruit, plum,
just
that juicy, you know,
just really,
blueberry,
really like bright, juicy fruits. I mean, this is a good wine for somebody who was just starting to get into red wine, because this wine, you know, the fruit's usually something that'll attract somebody to that is not usually into red wines and heavy tannins and all this. This does have good structure, but it's not like astringent and drying and real tannic. This is a good wine, a red wine with train wheels, if you will, for somebody who is trying to dip their toe into red wine drinking, because it still has lots of like really bright fruit to it, good acidity, and it's just not drying your mouth out with a lot of big astringent tannins.
So again, you know, we want to thank you guys for being wine club members, you know, and really supporting us and what we're doing, and know that we are dedicated to making the best wine that we can in Santa Barbara from some of the top vineyards, and really have that transparency and sense of place. So we hope you'll come back and see us in the tasting room. Come see our tasting room manager, Allie. You know, Rob and I get out there every so often, and we'll let you guys know when we come. But you know, I think going through what we're going through right now, it's really opened our eyes for a way for us to connect with you, even though we may not be there on the West Coast with you guys all the time and at the same time. So we're hoping to do a lot more of these style tastings on future club selections. We're going to do, you know, some Zoom pickup parties where we get to be more a part of it. So I think every quarter as a wine club member now, we've decided we're going to bring this type of access to you and give you guys a chance to really taste wines with us and ask some questions. And you know, and as well, you know, all of you, we'd love to have you over, come visit in Virginia where we started. You know, where my family's been on this land for over 300 years, and you know, it's a special place where this brand was born, and we really have a great team here and some great wines in Virginia as well. So come use your wine club benefits, come see us here, and we'd love to have you and love to hear, you know, everyone traveling between coasts. So cheers to you guys.
Cheers to you guys.
Thank you guys. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you again soon when all this is past, and we'll get back to paradise. Cheers.
Cheers.